Your mistakes don't define you. Your failures are not who you are, they're just a feature of the life you've lived. It's like earlier last year in 2024, I lost basically all of the money I had saved up over the course of just a couple of weeks due to a budding gambling addiction I had. And to this day, it's been kind of hard to forgive myself. It's been kind of hard to just let that go and, move on from that and forget it ever happened. Because genuinely for me in my situation, $1,000 is a lot of money. And that $1,000 was lost in a single sitting all at once. Like outside of that, I'd lost another like $500. So in total, it was like $1,500, And for me, my situation, that's like a month of work, That's like a pretty serious thing, And it was like, I couldn't see I was making a mistake at the time until it was too late. And then I was just beating myself up for it forever, I was just feeling so depressed. It felt like it was hard to move forward because my perception of myself had been shaped by this mistake I made. It's like it started out as something pretty small. Like I had a friend who I hadn't seen in a while, and he had started inviting me to these poker groups with his friends. And now it was sort of just low stakes, casual. Like we would do like $5, $10 games at his friend Andrew's house, and we would go and play, and it'd be fine, But it started to evolve into something else later on. It started to become a larger group of people, more people in on it. I guess somewhere along the line, my friend had been invited to be a part of this other poker group, this higher stakes game. And I don't know exactly how it happened, but eventually I just ended up playing poker almost every week with this group of people that I wasn't even necessarily friends with. I knew them because of one of my friends, but he didn't really come to those groups anymore. And so I was the outsider who started showing up and just playing games with them. And at first, I was doing really well. I never saw myself as someone who would get into gambling, or I didn't really see poker as gambling. I saw it as sort of a game of skill. And the first time I showed up, I won $70 on, a $40 buy-in. And basically, like, how that works is, you put in $40 and that's the most you can lose. And so I, not only made 40 bucks on my 40, but another 30 on top of that. So I almost doubled my money. And I more than doubled my money. It was really crazy. But, you know, um, it was like those first couple of wins I had set me up for failure in a way. Like I had this momentum behind me. I felt like I was really good at poker. Like I convinced myself it was actually a skill thing. And then, when I started to lose, it was just little bits at a time, small amounts. And so it kept me at the end of the string. Suddenly I was the one hosting poker nights most of the time. Suddenly I was, showing up to games that were far higher stakes than I was comfortable with just because that's what they started wanting to do. It was like our entire group suddenly was switching to like more and more expensive games. Suddenly I was playing $100 buy-ins where, I either walk away with profit or I lose $100. And I was a very loose player where I would end up losing more than most people. But it was like my wins were big and so were my losses, so it balanced out. And for a long time that was fine. It was like I had calculated I was down maybe like $12 in total heading into, my final weeks of poker night, and I thought, that's totally fine. But something started to happen where I felt very tilted over any loss, no matter what the amount was. It stopped being about the money itself and started being more about some sort of emotional reaction to my like gambling issue I was forming, like my sort of addiction to these feelings. And so when a friend asked, not really a friend, okay, but when a member of the poker group, after we'd finished poker, asked if I wanted to stay behind and play some heads up, I agreed. $100 heads up. And basically, heads up is like a 1v1 poker game where winner takes all. So we both put up $100 and we played poker together for a couple of hours, and I ended up losing the game. So I lost $100 in one sitting, and I was sort of tilted. So I, asked him to play another game, and I lost that one too. And it was like I was down $200, and that felt really crappy. But I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm just gonna call it a night. So we left. And then I told myself I was done playing poker, but a week later, they wanted to do a poker night, and I agreed, and I went. And the same person asked me, do you want to do heads up again? And I agreed. And so this time we played heads up, and I beat him twice. So I was like, okay, I'm even. I'm finally even. And that was the beginning of the end. You know, he said, "Do you want to play some pineapple pots?" Even I had just won my $200 back. He's like, "All right, let's just play $50 pineapple pots." And basically, you don't need to know the specifics of poker, but pineapple pots are just complete luck. He was basically saying, "Do you want a coin flip for money? Do you just want to purely gamble?" And I agreed to it, and suddenly I very quickly had lost that $200 again. Like, I spent hours of skillful play earning back my money only to lose it instantly just by, just pure gambling. And we kind of like kept playing back and forth the whole night, different coin flip games sort of thing where it was 50-50 odds. We would pull cards, and the person who had the higher card would lose, would win, and like all these crazy things happened. And it got to the point where at times I was literally down $500 with this person. Like, I literally owed him $500. At times he owed me $500. But for whatever reason, we just kept going. It was like just so back and forth until the point that we were both just even, and we're like, dude, like this, like what is wrong with us? Like, we actually need to stop. And so we eventually stopped and called it a night. And I told myself I would never play poker again. It seems like I'm the kind of person I have to learn the hard way. I don't know. I mean, looking back on this at this period of my life, I feel like such an idiot that I ever let it go that far or continue to do it, or what would happen next. And hindsight's 2020, but I look back at that period of my life so much, and I want to tell myself, like, just stop. Just stop right now while you're even, while you're not that far behind, because right around the corner you're gonna get burned really, really bad. But I just couldn't see. I couldn't see that. I didn't know exactly what was gonna happen. Like, I was so obsessed with just getting even at a certain point. It wasn't actually about making money. It was just that, like, I couldn't emotionally handle that I had lost money and it didn't contribute to anything in my life. So I just kept pushing myself to keep doing it. And so me and this person unfortunately went at it one more time, and I started to lose badly. It was like we played some heads up and I won, and then we played some luck games and we were back to even, and it went back and forth a little bit. But I don't know how this happened. It got to a point where I owed him $250. And normally the way we would go is we would do like a flip, like a 50-50 for 250. So it's either I'm even, I'm back to square one, or I owe him 500. And so we did that, and I lost, and I owed him 500. And for whatever reason, I begged him. I literally like said, like, I just want the opportunity to get even. Like, I've done this for you so many times. I'm so confident this time I'll actually be able to win. And I lost it. And then in that moment when I realized, oh wow, I actually owe him $1,000 now that quickly. Like, it just doubled a couple times, and now I'm gonna have to send him all the money in my bank account right now. I'm really gonna have to send him $1,000 of my money that basically took me like a month of work part time to save up. And that was a really crappy feeling. It was like the next day was literally my birthday. I can't make this up. I don't know like how the timing worked out that way, but it was literally my birthday. And instead of getting a birthday present, my mom usually just gives me some amount of money. And it felt like I didn't get anything for my birthday because I had made such a terrible mistake. The money my mom gave me was just a small portion of what I had lost the night before. It was such a terrible feeling to know that, like, I don't know, that some amount of like potential energy was lost, some amount of my time was lost, things I can do in the future, things I want to be able to get was kind of lost. It felt like that entire day and night, I just had this like pain, this heavy feeling in my chest and my stomach that I had made such a mistake. It was like nothing brought me any joy or satisfaction anymore. And it took a long time for that feeling to start to go away and for me to be able to distance myself enough from that it felt okay. But even to this day, sometimes I find myself feeling like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have made that massive mistake. I wish I would have been able to keep that $1,000. Across a long enough time span, money comes and goes. That $1,000 would have been lost somewhere along the line. Maybe multiple different purchases of things that I didn't end up needing. It would have been gone anyway, but it's hard not to obsess over the mistakes you've made. It's hard not to feel like those failures are a part of who you are. This is something I've struggled with for years, but I've had to realize that your failures, your mistakes don't define who you are. Who I am is not someone who's lost $1,000 playing poker. It's not someone who's broken his wrists on a motorbike in Thailand. It's not someone who's, you know, dropped out at 15 and is a failure. I'm someone who, has struggled and fought through different things throughout my life and learned from each of them and is better off for it. And I'm okay with the mistakes I've made because they are who I am. And I wouldn't take any of it back because I don't know who I would be without them. I think you need to learn to forgive yourself, no matter what it is. It's better to live being able to let go than trying to hold on to everything. It's like we feel like we owe it to ourselves to hold on to those mistakes, but it doesn't help us become a better person. It doesn't help us see the world in a more positive light. It doesn't even help us get things done or make the world a better place. It's genuinely just this heaviness we're carrying around. And I think I've had to learn how to let that go, and maybe you do too. I don't know.